Alright, before we start, I would like to mention that we have a Slido. That's an application you can use to ask questions. So you can scan this code, and when we finish the main topics we would like to discuss, then there's a time for questions. So you can add your question, and you can also upload questions of others. And when we get to the questions, we will answer them.
So that means if you disagree with anything that we say, then you have the chance to heckle with us through the app. Please do.
Awesome. So this panel will be dedicated to discussion about the last year in Bitcoin space. But we also want to comment the current situation and also provide with some future outlook. First, I would like to introduce our panelists. On my left side, there is Simon, who is a Bitcoin investor, Nostr enthusiast, and the leader of the team building application on Nostr protocol that is called Funfares. And next to him, there is Nelson, who is a Bitcoiner early Bitcoiner from 2014. He wrote books about Bitcoin, and he spoke at conferences, and is also a contributor to Stacker News and La Hora Crypto. So first, guys, I would like to ask you if you can give me the summary, or how do you see the past year, what do you think about the last year in the Bitcoin space? Please, Simon, if you can start.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting year. We started the year in a kind of expectation of ETFs, which came through in January. We had a bit of boost in price there. We got to March, where the price topped out about 74,000, I think, didn't it? You know, and that was a kind of medium-term top. And most of the year it just sat there, which was quite frustrating. And then at the end of the year, we had the huge gift that none of us would dare expect, that Donald Trump would actually get elected and deliver the Bitcoin strategic reserve that he was talking about. So I think Donald Trump was very smart in terms of figuring out that if he endorsed Bitcoin, then Bitcoiners would vote for him. If he was against Bitcoin, then no one that didn't like Bitcoin was going to vote for him for that. You know, that was never really going to be a vote winner. So very clever on his part. I don't think he really fully understands Bitcoin. But the one thing he really has this time around is a very strong team of very smart people. So I'm very hopeful for the future. I think I've ended the year much more hopeful than I started it. And Nostr is continuing to grow, which is obviously very popular with Bitcoiners, but I think over time we're going to pan out to really kind of fulfill digital media communications for more than just the Bitcoiners. I think we're the kind of critical mass of people who needed to get that network started. But over time, it's going to end up being probably the next layer of the internet that really kind of creates a decentralized communication system for everyone in the world that cannot be censored. And that's one thing we've really seen in 2024 with censorship. I mean, I'm from the UK, and they seem to do it better there than they do anywhere else. You know, in the UK, they put people in prison for what they say on Twitter and Facebook, and sometimes people don't even say anything that bad, and they still put them in prison for it. So, yeah, it's been an interesting year. Certainly for me, being in Paraguay, it's been an amazing thing. It's a great country with many good things here. The fact that this community has got started here just makes it an even better country. When I first got here in January last year, there was no Bitcoin community at all, and now we've got a really strong Bitcoin community. People that are really interested in what we're doing. And yeah, I mean, I'm going to say Jan really has been a huge part of making that happen. He's done a huge amount of work, and his enthusiasm for building the Bitcoin community here, I think, is a great asset that we have. But let me pass you on to Nelson. Looking forward to hearing what he has to say.
Hi. For me, 2024 is my year when I say, oh my God, it's happening. I was taught about Bitcoin in 2014 because I couldn't get a credit card to make purchases. So a friend of mine came and said, use Bitcoin to make whatever you want. I started just like that, and we were like, I don't know, if we were like this in 2014 here in Paraguay, I would say this is Woodstock, because we were like 4 people in our first meetup in 2014 when I first tried to buy Bitcoin, and now we're what, 50 people. The last meetup we were like 150 people. So, oh my God, it's happening, and it's going to keep going. This has no stop. Even if Donald Trump maybe get some, I don't know, he wakes up one morning and said Bitcoin is not really a strategic reserve asset because I said so. He's doing stuff like this in the past. He may do that again, but the thing is done. Bitcoin is going up. Nobody can prevent that. We can time it. So yes, it's happening in 2024. And the thing more interesting in Paraguay, at least, is the mining sector. For those who arrived recently in Paraguay, I tell you, the mining sector in Paraguay, Bitcoin mining, is keep going up, and more people are keeping investing. I think in this year it will double up easily, or triple, I don't know. In Paraguay also, the market itself as Bitcoin market is, I would like to say the triple of the last year, but I may be lying because it's more people are keep using it because they see some advantage that our traditional system doesn't have, especially for the payments abroad. Yeah, 2024 was an interesting year, 2025 even more interesting here in Paraguay, in the region also. So that's some stuff. Also, I was more active in Nostr also. I found out Nostr to be more interesting that if you don't have a Nostr account, it's like X but decentralized, and it's even funnier with more value. If you don't want to make clickbaits in Facebook and X, use Nostr. It's my non-financial advice of this time. And also buy Bitcoin.
You mentioned the mining here in Paraguay. We also faced the changes in May or June this of last year in 2024. If you can just like recap what happened and how it impacted the mining industry here in Paraguay.
Yeah, so if you come Bitcoin mining Paraguay, you may see some negative news, just to say, that people are making sort of a non-legal mining. That is to say, they steal electricity and they don't make Bitcoin mining illegal, they steal the electricity, which is the illegal part, not the Bitcoin mining. But our regulators say the two things are the same thing. Stealing electricity and Bitcoin mining are the same thing, which is not. So that's what happened in June, July, because ANDE, which is the company which manages the electricity here in Paraguay, I don't know in what could be your countries, but here is the monopoly of electricity and the consumption of energy. It goes all here from the ANDE. There is no other company except in Villarrica, which has some private company that have a special treatment with ANDE. Is the exception to the rule. The rule itself is monopoly. The exception here is Cliffstaff, I think it is the company. So The negative part was the ANDE was taking down some illegal operations, which was found that people are making Bitcoin mining with that. Since they can blame itself because to be something illegal, they need to be two sides. The one which is offering the illegal trade and the one who accepts the illegal part. So in the Ande, there are people that accept and they make illegal trades, and here also because people do whatever they tend to be in order to profit itself. And the rest of the Bitcoin miners took the worst part because the press itself start to look this as anti-Bitcoin mining stuff, which was not. Bitcoin miners also went to the press and said this doesn't have anything to do with us. If someone steals electricity, we have to stop them. It doesn't have anything related with Bitcoin mining, but the harm was done. And with that harm, in 2025, we keep facing that because the government still have some kind of negative side of the Bitcoin mining, which I can find what, but that's the situation right now.
Interesting. Simon, if I can ask you, you mentioned national state adoption and ETFs. What do you think about this direction that the Bitcoin adoption is heading?
Yeah, I think let's start with the nation-state adoption now. I think it's there's a lot of big news about Trump and potentially America getting a strategic Bitcoin reserve, which I think is almost certainly a very good thing for the Bitcoin price. And it kind of endorses Bitcoin as a savings vehicle. It recognizes that it has a value, which is a good thing. But I think the thing that none of us should lose sight of is that Bitcoin is a currency. And my view is that the only way it really is a store of value in the long run is if it does fulfill that dream of being a decentralized peer-to-peer currency, which is what it started as. So it's kind of like a startup, you know, it needs to deliver at some point, it needs to finally deliver a utility in order to actually have the store of value. So I think there's two sides to that. I think the thing when most people discover Bitcoin, they see it as price goes up, they see that there's limited supply. It doesn't take a great economist to figure out that the price is going to go up as more people come into the network. But once you discover Bitcoin Lightning and you start to use it as a currency, you can use it for transactions. I think one of the really cool things going on here is that we can have a network of people that will trade Bitcoin for cash. So if I was to bring money into Paraguay through the banking system, I'd be paying 10% through Western Union. But when I can trade Bitcoin for cash and spend the cash, I'm doing it at the spot rate. I'm also making it possible for people that have cash in Paraguay to buy Bitcoin at the spot rate. So genuinely functioning as a peer-to-peer currency. So I think, you know, the strategic reserve is a good thing. I think it's worth noting that El Salvador did it 3 years before Donald Trump even kind of got elected the second time around. So they were definitely the pioneers there, and they were adopting it as a currency when Lightning wasn't even that reliable. So they were way ahead of the game. But I think a country the size of America, for them to adopt really does change the game. I think that's a big endorsement. Other countries around the world have to take notice. Many of them will recognize that, you know, this train has left the station, and if they don't get on it, then how much more are they going to have to pay in order to get this sound reserve asset into their strategic reserve of their country? And is their currency going to be viewed as being potentially worth less versus other currencies in the world if they don't have a Bitcoin component in their treasury? That's the thing I think they need to ask, you know. So forward-thinking countries will be doing it. It depends upon the individuals within those governments, whether they're smart, whether they understand things. I think the other part of your question there was the ETFs. Personally, I don't think they're a very good thing. You know, Bitcoin is a self-custody asset. And if you give it to somebody else to look after it for you, and they don't give it back to you again, then more for you, but that's ultimately what you're doing with the Bitcoin ETF. You're asking for somebody else to look after it for you. If there is any regulation that comes in the future, then that may restrict your possibilities of getting the Bitcoin out. In practice, you can't really get the Bitcoin out of the ETF. You can only sell it for dollars and then trade the dollars into Bitcoin. So it really is, it's not real Bitcoin. It's what you call paper Bitcoin. And only one of those ETFs has actually given their wallet address to show that they actually hold the Bitcoin on a one-to-one basis. So it's quite possible that what we have is just another fractional reserve system, much like we have in the gold market, where it's a 200 to 1 paper to gold ratio. And all of these things are possible with Bitcoin. It's not great for the price. It's literally just the traditional financial institutions taking advantage of an asset that they see going up in price, and they see it's popular, and they want to sell their paper assets to make money out of the transaction fees. So that's my view. Do you have a view, Nelson?
Just to add up, the Bitcoin ETF is like you say you went to the beach. I ask you how you went, and you say I use a VR and I went to Hawaii. You use a VR glasses to go to Hawaii. You say I went to Hawaii. You didn't, because the VR showed you something that is not. Bitcoin ETF is the VR quest related to Bitcoin. If you want Bitcoin, you use a self-custodial wallet and just use it like us.
Are you afraid that at some point we will basically buy a paper Bitcoin because like right now we are basically working with the traditional finance, Bitcoin is traded with this ETF and maybe it will be used like in kind of derivative assets. Are you afraid that at some point those institutions will try to take advantage of the current state and maybe a little bit abuse the system by selling something that in reality is just like not really Bitcoin? Like there is no Bitcoin behind those assets they are selling,
We are looking right now. I mean, we have so many dozens of projects that say they are Bitcoin related, Bitcoin killers, Bitcoin blah blah blah. Which when you look the white paper, when you look the documents, it's not Bitcoin. Bitcoin itself lives in the blockchain, so we have so many cases. Now, with saying that, I'm not afraid for two things. Because one, governments will do whatever governments want to do, because that's how they behave in the past, and that's how they're going to behave in the future. So you can do anything related to that. If they want to enter in the traditional market with Bitcoin, we can prevent that because they want to. So for me, it's inevitable to mix the traditional market with Bitcoin. The ETF for me is step number one. The step number two, they're going to be more Bitcoin ETF related stuff. I mean, ETF is the experiment number one. So the number two is going to be, a stock market Bitcoin related, regulated also by the government. So they want to hijack kind of our Bitcoin, what we know right now, and make something more friendly to what the regulation looks like. Because Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general, they have the ecosystems growing so fast, even so faster, regulations can even imagine what are we now looking for. For example, quick example, if I say to someone, what is money? No one has a proper answer. We Bitcoiners have an answer. Money is something used to store value via the exchange, etc. But when you come to the regulatory framework, they don't know what Bitcoin is. Some countries say Bitcoin is a currency. Some people say Bitcoin is money because I recently thought currency and money was the same thing. It appears it's not. Currency is something made for someone, and money is something that we all use, not related to who or what means that money. So currency and money are not the same thing. Imagine that in the traditional market, we are not just, like I said, it's happening right now. And if you ask me how it's going to work, it's going to work like this. We, the ones who have Bitcoin, are one in the right side. If you have Bitcoin paper related and approved by government, you are in the wrong side of the path. Why? Because Bitcoin and the blockchain that has Bitcoin speak louder, because we don't trust, we verify, right? And the government says to you in the bill, in God we trust. That what does it mean? It means that they don't have nothing. So they won't have nothing, and when they have Bitcoin, they won't have Bitcoin because they're gonna do what government have done to currency in the past 800 years. They're gonna devalue it. Take, for example, most economic in the past. History told us what is going to happen. So now we are prepared with one currency, we got money, Bitcoin. So yeah.
Right, someone, if you can comment a little bit, are you afraid that at some point we will face confiscation by the state of the Bitcoin that is behind those ETFs? Because we know that currently most of the ETFs or the Bitcoin that is held by these ETFs is stored on Coinbase, right? So isn't it just a big honeypot for the government that in case of some huge financial crisis, they will knock on the door of Coinbase and tell them, like, you have to give us the Bitcoin and we will use it as a reserve asset?
That's an interesting question. Am I afraid of that? Personally, no, because I don't have any Bitcoin on Coinbase, so that doesn't scare me. Anyone I know that's got Bitcoin on Coinbase, I would tell them to get it off, because that is the biggest honeypot in the world. You know, it comes down to the nature of Bitcoin. It's a self-custody asset. It's the first time in history we've had the ability to hold money securely in a self-sovereign way. So with gold, when gold was the main form of currency, you could hide it under your bed, you could bury it in the ground, but people could always come and find it and steal it from you. But with Bitcoin, if you hold it in your own wallet and you keep your private key secure, then nobody can take it from you. No government, no thieves. They don't even know you have it unless you tell them. So it's really a very highly secure way of storing your own wealth, but also a very effective way of transacting with other people. That's the thing, the transaction fees are much lower. There's things you can do with payment splitting when you're making Bitcoin payments. So it's really sort of level up in technology. It's a level up in terms of utility. What we've seen throughout history is that money has given us the ability to specialize. So before we had any form of money, we all had to be subsistence farmers, we had to make our own clothes. We didn't live an enjoyable life that we're able to live now because we didn't have that specialization of labor. When you have a reliable form of money that you can use to pay somebody else, then everyone can specialize in a form of labor that they're very good at, that they enjoy doing, and everybody's better off for it. So ultimately, money is the real mainstay of civilization. And the better the form of money, the better civilization that you get as a result of it. And Bitcoin is literally a step up versus anything we've ever had before. And it's come about at a time when we appear to be highly dependent upon very centralized banks that are completely faking what they hold on our behalf. They took the gold, they put it all in their vaults. in reality, what we think we have, it's not redeemable for gold anymore. It's ultimately an unbanked, either paper or digital number on a screen. And we can see the value of it is draining away all the time because they create more of this asset that has no real backing. So yes, is Coinbase a real weak connection? Yes, they are. And ultimately it comes down to the individuals who should be self-sovereign. If they choose to give it to Coinbase to look after for them, if they choose to give it to an ETF that stores it with Coinbase, they will be the ones that will lose money if that weakest link eventually breaks.
The following questions, do you guys think that everybody is able to do self-custody? Do you think it's a matter just of teaching the people how to do it properly? Or do you think that only a certain amount of people, let's say 5-10% of the population will do self-custody and most of the people will use the custodial services?
I think that self-custody in Bitcoin, understanding public-private key technology, is probably the modern-day equivalent of reading and writing. Because before people could do that, they couldn't understand property contracts. They couldn't read a contract, and it would be very difficult for them to actually own property. So the fact that people learned to read and write gave them that ability to own property. Having the ability to use public-private key cryptography to store your Bitcoin in a self-custody way is a new way to own property.
Self-custody is the only way to properly have Bitcoin for once. And also, I remember one time I have a debate with a friend. We have this same question: is everyone going to use self-custody or what? The answer was very simple. People are afraid of have more responsibility of the money they have. It's easier if I give you the accountability and the responsibility of my money. It's easy for me because if something is happening in the future, I will blame you and that's it. I have zero responsibility, and people don't like responsibilities. People really like me to tell them what to do. So that's not how Bitcoin works, and that is something that we have to teach people. People are afraid of themselves because they say, I'm going to lose my best friends, my keys are, I don't know, ABC points. So self-custody is the only way, I think, because that's the way I was taught in 2014 and 2014. That's the only path I see already in Bitcoin. If you want to use custodial, I can stop anyone to do that. But my main non-financial advice to everyone is to have self-custodial of the Bitcoin. Otherwise, just use your bank and that's it. So,
do you think that the current technology, we know that we have a blockchain, we have the base layer where we can hold our own keys, have our own wallet, have our receipt backup and everything. But we know that blockchain has very limited capacity. We have only roughly 7 transactions per second. That's the capacity of Bitcoin layer 1. We have also some layer 2 solutions like Lightning or Liquid. How do you see the current development in terms of self-custody? Is the technology ready to onboard millions, maybe billions of people to Bitcoin?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think the reality is that the slow transaction speed of Bitcoin is a feature rather than a bug. It is what makes the network very secure. The fact that anyone in the world can run a Bitcoin node with their laptop and an internet connection is made possible by the fact that the transaction speeds are relatively low. That's what makes the base layer very secure. Satoshi himself talked about layer 2s being the way that the network would scale. As we look at it at the moment, Lightning couldn't really serve as a payment layer for 8 billion people in the world. It just doesn't have the capacity. So we need to continue to build and come up with new solutions. I mean, custodial solutions in terms of daily payments can actually be quite useful. I mean, I use Wallet Satoshi to pay for a beer at the bar earlier. You know, I don't keep a lot of money in that wallet because I know that the owners of that wallet could run bullets at any time. But that's a custodial solution that could work for lots of people in the world. It's also potential that the owners of Wallet Satoshi could put most of their Bitcoin on chain and actually prove that to the world that they are actually a more reliable store of, you know, the kind of custodial Bitcoin they're offering. But yeah, I think, you know, we've still got a lot of work to do. You know, we are very early days in this new technology, but the fundamentals are very strong. We know that it's working, it's growing. There's an incredible community of people that is building around it. A lot of developers, a lot of very deep thinkers are seeing the value and they want to add to the network, they want to add. So we're going to be building better stuff that makes it easier to use, that makes it potentially more reliable, but also enables the simple, perhaps, you know, kind of day-to-day spend solution of Bitcoin to be accessible to everyone.
I have to agree with that. So, in terms of technology, I think we have to clarify something, that is, custodial solutions have more budget for once. That has a reason, because most people are getting on board with custodial solution, which is not bad, I think. So what could be the alternative to have more self-custodial solution in the future to us to use and keep educating about the self-custodial part of Bitcoin? Wallet Satoshi, Link, and among others custodial solutions have the budget itself because they have the users engaged and they have something to sell. Self-custodial is open source, so my take for all of you is, if you use something like Blue Wallet, if you use something like Sales, or I don't know which wallet open source you use, but consider invest in those wallets, give some SAP to the developers, help them with the document. I myself, for example, I have the English part of, I understand English, so I try to translate all the technical documents I can when for instance, with Prima, which is another application I use, I volunteer myself to make some translation because I know they have zero budget, so that's my part for the community. For the Lightning Network part, Lightning for me is my own opinion. Lightning is in beta phase yet. I think it has a lot of things that has to be more robust. I don't know what word I use, so I use robust because the Lightning it's complicated for a beginner like me to set up a node and make the self-custodial solution, which is not an excuse to not use it. Use please, but in the future I think Lightning will keep growing and growing for one thing and one thing only. It's happening. More and more people are getting on board, and since Bitcoin have 10 minutes confirmation, which is a feature, not a bug, Lightning will be the easiest way, and is right now the easiest way to onboard someone with Bitcoin. About Nostr, if you don't know, how many of you have Nostr account? How many of you know what Nostr is? We have so much to do. So, no financial advice, try to use Nostr, you're gonna like it. It has some bright future. yeah, that's my take.
I think, if you think about how once you understood Bitcoin, you wish that you'd gone onto Bitcoin much sooner, I'd say you will have the same experience with Nostr. Once you understand Nostr, you wish you'd figured it out sooner. So take the time to have a look at it. Any of us here that are on Nostr will share our connection with you, so you can know some people on there already. It takes a little bit of time to figure it out, but once you get there, it's really not that hard to use at all.
So we are in 2025. We can probably say that we are in a bull market phase of Bitcoin 4-year cycle. Many people are joining, coming to Bitcoin, starting, exploring, and using Bitcoin. What is your advice for the total beginners? Let's say I just heard about Bitcoin and I would like to start exploring it, using it, and so on.
That will be easier to answer. How many of you know Bitcoin? How many of you knows how Bitcoin works? And lastly, how many of you help someone to onboard with Bitcoin? That's the advice. So my advice to everyone is rule number 1, always go self-custody, because in the future you will thank everyone, because self-custody is the proper way to onboard someone with Bitcoin. I don't mean not to use our partner with Link. It's the easiest way to have some small amount of sats to have fun and buy a beer here in Palo Santo and other places that accept Bitcoin, which is something that really makes me really happy as a Paraguayan, because more and more conferences are accepting Bitcoin, and this is something positive for us. I remember when I started, there was only just one place to accept Bitcoin in all Paraguay. Now we have more than 100. They are not all related in the BTC map. There are more because they don't want to put it, I don't know why, but they don't want to just put it. Number 1, and number 2, my non-financial advice for everyone is keep stacking Bitcoin. It's not too late. If you are someone that look at the price and say 100K, I'm not gonna buy anymore because the trend has up. My friend, we just getting started. It's happening right now. The 100K is just, I can say BS, right? It's just bullshit. So just keep stacking, keep getting your wealth, and be happy, because the point of Bitcoin is to you to be happy, because you are now concentrated to build your life, not getting worried about how your money is going to devaluate. As Paraguayan, in Paraguay, they always say the Paraguayan guarani is the most stable currency in the region, which is a lie, because I see that my currency is getting weaker and weaker every year. So I don't know what stability they say, and when they tell me that Bitcoin is they have some volatility, I have no idea what they mean, because Bitcoin is, with one Bitcoin in, 2014, I bought my first video camera with 0.5 Bitcoin at that time. And with 0.5 Bitcoin, how much thing I could invest or spend right now is, so that would be my advice to everyone.
Yeah, I think if you are just getting into Bitcoin, it's absolutely correct what Jan said. We are in a bull market phase, but if it behaves in the same way that it has done in the past, then it's probably going to go up very fast, and there may be at a time in the future where it comes down very fast as well. So if you are thinking of buying it, the thing to do is probably buy a very small bit to begin with, and maybe do like what they call dollar cost averaging, where you just put a little bit into Bitcoin each week or each month, and that gives you the ability to ride out the waves, because there will be a time when it comes down, but in the long run, it's very likely to go up just because of the fundamentals of the technology. So the best investment you can actually make is in time in learning about Bitcoin. There are loads of really good books, videos, podcasts that you can use to learn about Bitcoin. The more you understand the value of it, the more you will be able to feel comfortable when the price goes up and down.
A follow-up question. There might be some people here in the audience that are wondering, like, alright, like Bitcoin is one of many cryptocurrencies on the market. Why should I just focus on Bitcoin and not on some other cryptocurrencies that are out there?
Yeah, that's one. A lot of people do discover when they first find Bitcoin, they get into Bitcoin and then they see that there's other cryptocurrencies that perhaps are moving faster, and perhaps there's people that tell you about Bitcoin is the kind of MySpace of the cryptocurrency world, and the first technology is never the one that succeeds. But if you speak to people that have been in the space for a long time, then they will tell you that Bitcoin is the only one. And it's one of the very nice things about the Bitcoin Paraguay community is it's a real kind of hardcore Bitcoin community where there aren't a lot of what we call shitcoiners around, because the way we see it after many years of researching this space is that there is Bitcoin and everything else is a shitcoin. So, these other coins, they may be used as a test bed for different utilities, but Bitcoin is the one that really seems to hold its value in the long run. If you do a personal census of people that you meet in the Bitcoin space versus those in the shitcoin space, you'll find that the Bitcoiners are a lot more humble, a lot more long-term thinking, a lot more honest. In reality, a lot of the other coins are basically just the founders of those coins selling the coins that they're buying at the beginning to the new entrants into the system. Satoshi Nakamoto, the anonymous character that created Bitcoin, he owns over $100 billion worth of Bitcoin and he's never sold anything. You can see on the blockchain it's still sitting there, it's not moving. So he believes in the project. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme for him, as that's what it is for most of these other coins. So, you've got to be very careful, but if you don't want to spend your time trying to find the one alternative crypto that might actually be real, then I'd say don't bother, stick with Bitcoin.
Why not Bitcoin only? That's pretty easy. If you have time to invest in looking for something shiny, if you want something that brights in the dark, etc., use shitcoins. I can't control anyone to use it, so when I teach sometimes to people to get on board with Bitcoin, and they always ask me about alternative projects about Bitcoin. And I tell them it's a waste of time. If you want to verify for yourself, I will give you all the documentation, and I show them some links. I show them how they could buy if they want to, how they could sell if they want to. But in the end, you always will finish with Bitcoin. I say to everyone, to you that also. If you want to use something not related to Bitcoin, you can do it, but in the end, in the shining future, there will be only Bitcoin and shitcoins. Why? Because Bitcoin is the only project currently that have the viable solution, that is the double check for double spending. Bitcoin can be counterfeit. Ethereum, among other projects, we can say the same. So why Bitcoin only again? Because Bitcoin is the one that has the proper solution to a problem. The rest, they invent the problem and they want to give you the solution for the problem they invent themselves. That's why Bitcoin only always. It's a non-financial advice also. As I said, if you want to go for it. But in the end, in 10 years, if we have this same conversation, you will say, we were right. It's not about who is right, it's about what is the proper answer to that question. And the proper answer is Bitcoin.
All right, let's move and refocus to Paraguay again. What do you guys think about the current situation, about current Bitcoin space in Paraguay, and what do you think are the biggest challenges for Bitcoin adoption in Paraguay?
Yeah, I think that really comes down to having people on the ground. We're going to speak to merchants and tell them about the virtues of Bitcoin, how it saves them paying the 3 to 5% transaction fees that credit cards charge them, and how it would bring them more customers. You know, ultimately that's the biggest sell you can make to any business, is that if you accept Bitcoin, it's going to increase your footfall. Jan and I did a really good call with some guys in England that have been entrepreneur businesses for years, and they told us, you know, it's like Amex. You know, Amex is a more expensive credit card than all the others, but the merchants have to accept Amex, because if they don't, they will lose customers because of it. The reality is the same with Bitcoin. If they don't accept Bitcoin, they will lose customers because of it. They don't all understand that yet, but the more of us there are out there spending Bitcoin, telling merchants about the benefits of accepting Bitcoin, the more people will adopt. Ultimately, it ends up meaning that Paraguay will be a much more resilient place in the event of any financial crisis in the future and instability of the currency. They will have that backup system there. They'll be more ready to work with Bitcoin as a currency.
In terms of the biggest challenge for me is the part of education, but the education itself for, as Paraguay, we face, I don't want to say a problem, because it's not. They think Bitcoin is related to something that is scam related. In the past, Paraguay has too many projects that use Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, for instance, to make proper scams, biggest scam. We're talking about millions and millions stolen from people, and they have this negative issue about Bitcoin. In the last 2 years, we faced a lot of problems. Me, for instance, because I advise people to buy Bitcoin, and I keep going in the same subject, which is education, showing what Bitcoin is, what Bitcoin is not. I can promise someone that Bitcoin is going to make them rich, because that's what not is Bitcoin for. And Paraguayans have also, I don't know to say also a problem, because it's not. They say Bitcoin is not for the poor people. They only say Bitcoin is for someone who understands money. And when someone tells me that, I always say, and you know how your money works? And the answer is still the same thing. People don't understand what they have in their pockets. So, and they want to teach poor people, people who doesn't have banking accounts, to how to manage money, which is crazy to me. Bitcoin is for everyone, and that is something that every Paraguayan needs to understand. It's not just for us, it's for everyone, but if you don't want to use it, that's fine. But in the end, you know what is best for you, for us, I mean, and that's it.
So, guys, what do you think about, we have this Bitcoin Paraguay community right now, which was created in May. We grew at a pretty large size already in less than 7 or 8 months, roughly. What do you think we as a community should do to foster the adoption here in Paraguay, and like what are the biggest opportunities, and yeah, the biggest opportunities we have here?
we're just getting started, so that will be our main advantage because everything is to be done in Paraguay. In order to keep growing, our biggest challenge would be invite all your friends because we need your help. For me, Jan and Simon just do the part here and talking is just one part. If you go now in your house and you don't talk about Bitcoin with anyone else, that would be something that we'll never see, a project that will never grow. We need your help. We need you to talk to I don't know, I don't want to say talk to Bitcoin like 4 hours to your family, but introduce them friendly, introduce them to Bitcoin and keep the conversation running in your circle. That would be the biggest contribution you could make. If you want to join our WhatsApp group in Bitcoin Paraguay, we just keep growing and our numbers are going up. If you want to be part also, they want to reach with Jan and that and keep so that's it.
I think that's exactly right. Yeah. Tell your friends about Bitcoin. Tell your friends about the Bitcoin community here, about the meetups that we're running, and anyone that you know that accepts money for anything, tell them that they can get paid with 0 transaction fees with Bitcoin. That's a huge difference for most merchants. They are getting literally fleeced by the credit card companies. Credit card transactions are regularly fraudulent. They put the cost of the refunds onto the merchants. That's why they're paying 3 to 5%. Bitcoin is ultimately a much more secure system. You will hear the detractors say, well, it's volatile or it's used by criminals. I mean, you know, these are the things that are often said. You know, I mean, in reality, all money is used by criminals. You know, that's just how it is. Most criminals choose to use the US dollar, and most crime is committed using that. So there's various things that you will come up against. A lot of people will say it's a Ponzi scheme because they see that the price is going up. They'll tell you it's backed by nothing. The fact is it's backed by work. The only way anyone ever got any Bitcoin is by working. They're either mining, using electricity, or they've earned some Bitcoin by working for it. So it's a process. It's going to take some time. The more we talk about it with people, the more we learn about it ourselves, the more able we are to spread the word. And ultimately, it's a huge opportunity to have a better money system for everyone.
So we addressed community and people that are part of this community, but what is your advice for local government? We know that there is a lot of free energy in Paraguay produced by large hydroelectric power plants, Itaipu and Yacyretá. Do you think that Paraguay can follow steps of countries like El Salvador or Bhutan and start mining Bitcoin using this free electricity?
We are right now giving the energy to other countries with a fraction that we could invest in Bitcoin mining and make like 4 or 5 times. 5 times is the smallest part I can think of. So my advice to the government would be the same thing that we already told them in the past, which is embrace Bitcoin, make Bitcoin legal, and that's it. The rest will come up. That's the simple solution, which is also the proper solution. When they want to pass a bill that is only mining related, they're making half of the path. But to be fully in the path, they have to be Bitcoin as just one currency more in the ecosystem. Bitcoin eventually will embrace everyone because that's what Bitcoin do. Most people think that when we say Bitcoin is going up, you can see in the other face. Bitcoin is not going up, it's your money that is going down. So when you put Bitcoin in the legal side, that is going to happen. My advice and my non-financial advice and the justice system and is the same thing I've been saying in my Twitter X account, now in my Monster account, is make Bitcoin legal and that's it. The rest will come up.
So you think that at some point, maybe in a couple of years, Bitcoin can become a legal tender in Paraguay, or at least it can be accepted as a regular currency?
Yes, because that is what money is. Money is not something that the government give us and tell us to use. Money is something that we use and we embrace as money. The seashells, it wasn't invented by the government, it was invented because people wanted to use money. They don't have gold, they don't have silver, so they have to use seashells. And the history tells us each time that the community, meaning our community is doing Bitcoin legal with each part. What if the government wants to do the right thing for once, it's just do the Bitcoin legal. Eventually, everyone will start using, and the financial institutions are going to do the right side, which is embrace Bitcoin also. Meaning all the paths roads to Bitcoin, so just make the path faster. That's my 2 cents.
We are slowly running out of time, so I will just quickly ask you if you can give us future outlook, maybe 2025 and further, like what do you think will happen in a year or upcoming years, quickly, shortly?
I think, 2025 looks like it's going to be very interesting because Bitcoin is now front and central with the American government, with Trump himself and his team. And yeah, I think it's going to be a feature on the political scene in every election, in every country from now on. So yeah, it's going to be exciting. I think Bitcoin really is on the side of free speech, and so governments that are choosing to try to control the population through restricted speech, they're going to really find it very difficult with the Bitcoiners. So I think we're seeing a lot of interesting things going on we've never really seen before. You know, the restriction of free speech in the West has never really been a thing. We've always felt like we had freedom. But yeah, times are changing. There's a lot going on. Technological changes are really changing the landscape in a lot of ways. But one thing I'm pretty sure of is that Bitcoin is not going away.
For me, 2025 is going to be David Goliath scene again. We, David, are going to face the Goliath, which is the institutional hunger for Bitcoin, which is already started. There are businesses that start selling Bitcoin and buying Bitcoin and using in their treasuries in order to keep their dollars going up. Those same businesses are going to be regulated by the government, and the government will do what governments have done in the past 300, 400, 500 years. They're going to try to regulate Bitcoin. So it's going to be me and you with your self-custodial wallet versus the BlackRock and the yada yada institutions that are going to try to replace Bitcoin with whatever dream they have of what Bitcoin could be for them. So Bitcoin is always the self-custodial solution to everyone and have the biggest solution to the issue, the biggest issue, which is the trust. We don't trust, we verify. So don't lose your verification. Keep self-custodial always. Use Bitcoin. That will be my non-financial advice for 2025.
All right, let's move to questions from the audience. We have a couple of them, so let's address at least few. First question, with country adoption, what about privacy? Look at El Salvador's Chill wallet, which blocked many transactions. Most will likely use it through such channels.
Yeah, I mean the Chivo wallet is monitored by the government in El Salvador, but nobody has to use the Chivo wallet. All people there can download any wallet they like and not be monitored. I mean, when they first introduced it, every citizen got $30 worth of Bitcoin into that wallet, but they were completely free to transfer it to another wallet and never use it again. So it's not a problem. You know, if people are not worried about being monitored, then they will use it. If they are worried, use a different wallet.
Alright, next question. How many Bitcoin are held in custody? 50%? Question mark.
I don't know for certain, but I know about 70% of the Bitcoin are held in long-term self-custody wallets. So the rest, yeah, maybe a mixture of exchanges and custodial wallets and ETFs. But yeah, I mean, it's less than half held in custody for sure.
Just to add up, 90% of all the Lightning Network transactions are made in custodial services, also, to keep it.
Alright, the next question is how to onboard merchants to Bitcoin.
Easiest way is always to talk about the features of Bitcoin. The first easiest way is zero fees and commission. The 4-5% of fee or what bank card and other companies makes is zero in Bitcoin. First, furthermore, Bitcoin itself is your money, is settled in the right away, whereas the bank always has some delays. That would be the first.
Yeah, if you want to onboard a merchant to Bitcoin, the first thing is you don't mention Bitcoin. Just tell them you can bring them more customers. That will whet their appetite. Most businesses want more customers. So if you start with that, and then you explain how, then that's the good way to go about it.
Alright, the next question is why not push for a larger block size if you want true peer-to-peer cash on the actual blockchain? Bitcoin Cash level.
So years ago there was the block size war where some part of the Bitcoin network tried to push for a bigger block size and the other part of the network wanted to keep the block size the same as it was. And the small blockers won, the big blockers lost, and they proved to the entire world that the node runners, the people that run the nodes, the everyday people that run a node on their own computer, control the network. So ultimately it was a total victory for decentralization, and yeah, I think it just means that the network stays decentralized and secure. If you try to move to a solution that is faster or cheaper, then you're sacrificing security. The fastness and cheapness is being achieved through Lightning and Liquid, and to continue to develop those higher level solutions, the layers on top, is the way to achieve those solutions. It's good that we keep the base layer secure and decentralized.
Just to add up a solution to Bitcoin Cash, if you want to know why Bitcoin the block size works, I give you an advice. Go to your laptop, download the Bitcoin node, and just use the approved node with 10 gigabytes of capacity. So when you run a node, approved node of Bitcoin, it's almost the same as use a full node. That's the advantage of why the block size work was in favor of Bitcoin, our Bitcoin, what Bitcoin really is.
The next question is, do you think most of Bitcoins will by institution related to the governments and after they're gonna devaluate it then, Probably the question is if you're not afraid that all institutions will buy the Bitcoin and those institutions are related to government, and then the government can just devaluate all the Bitcoin.
Yeah, the thing with Bitcoin is, even if somebody owned 90% of the Bitcoin supply, that wouldn't give them control of the network. And even, they couldn't print more Bitcoin. If they had 90%, they still have to do the mining process that has to be done to create Bitcoin. And that's because of the way the thing is constructed. If the government were to take all of the Bitcoin in the ETFs and everything on Coinbase and the exchanges, they wouldn't gain the power of the network. They wouldn't be able to change the rules. The rules are very secure, and the decentralized network maintains those rules. So you don't need to worry about the ETF Bitcoin being seized and that being used to create additional Bitcoin above the 21 million limit.
Right, and the last question is, are you just keeping Bitcoin for value, or you use it for transactions?
I use for both saving and transactions. But that's all I'm saying. I talk about Bitcoin, not my Bitcoins.
Yeah, I'm the same, using both.
Alright, so if you have any ending words like you want to share with the audience, now you have the space.
Enjoy the night, reach jam if you want to be in the WhatsApp group in Bitcoin Paraguay. We have so much to do this year. It's an exciting year because, again, as I said in the beginning, it's happening and it's happening right now. So you are all invited to get on board with Bitcoin Paraguay. You're very welcome to,
just say, take some time to network. If you've been in Bitcoin for a while, you'll meet more people that you can talk to about Bitcoin without boring your partners or your family with it. Well, you should still tell them about it as much as possible. But yeah, if you're new to Bitcoin, take the opportunity to meet people here. You'll find lots of people that are very happy to take time to tell you about it, exchange numbers, ask them any questions you have, any concerns that you have. But the network that we have is the greatest resource. It's the people that work around Bitcoin. We are the resource that you can use once you're here.
Perfect. Thank you very much, both of you. Thank you very much, Simon. Thank you very much, Les. And big applause for them. And we will slowly move to the last quick part, and I will invite Andreas to join me on the stage to present about his company.